The city's pulse had long since faded to a faint, distant hum, leaving the night to its own quiet devices. Alex walked, his footsteps echoing a lonely rhythm on the pavement of the deserted street. Each street lamp cast a sickly orange glow, creating pockets of light that seemed only to deepen the surrounding darkness. He pulled his gray hoodie tighter, a flimsy shield against the chill that had nothing to do with the autumn air. An unshakable feeling of being watched prickled the back of his neck, forcing him to cast nervous glances over his shoulder. The street remained empty, yet the feeling persisted, a silent weight pressing in from the shadows that clung to the edges of the light. He quickened his pace, the keys in his pocket jingling a frantic metallic tune as he hurried toward the sanctuary of his apartment building. The feeling, however, followed him, a persistent, unseen companion. Inside, the familiar click of the deadbolt locking was supposed to bring relief, but tonight it only seemed to trap the unease inside with him. The silence of his apartment was different now. It was heavy, expectant. As he moved through the small living room, a flicker of movement in his peripheral vision made him freeze. He whipped his head around, his heart hammering against his ribs, but there was nothing there, just the familiar shapes of his furniture silhouetted against the window. He tried to dismiss it as a trick of the light, a symptom of his frayed nerves, but then a floorboard creaked in the hallway, a distinct, deliberate sound from a place he knew he was alone in. His breath hitched. He stared down the hall, his eyes straining to pierce the gloom. A few minutes later, as he returned from the kitchen with a glass of water he didn't really want, he noticed it. The bedroom door, which he distinctly remembered closing, was now slightly ajar, a dark sliver of emptiness inviting him in. His hand trembled as he reached for the light switch in the hallway, his mind screaming at him to turn back, to run. But he couldn't, he had to know. As his fingers found the switch, a figure materialized from the deepest shadows at the far end of the hall. It was tall, impossibly slender, a featureless silhouette of pure, absorbing darkness that seemed to drink the meager light from the room. No eyes, no mouth, no face, just a void in the shape of a man. Alex's scream was caught in his throat, a strangled gasp of pure terror. He stood frozen, his gaze locked on the silent, monolithic presence. Then, with a sudden, deafening pop, the hallway light blew out, plunging the entire apartment into absolute blackness. The abrupt darkness was a physical blow, and a panicked scream finally tore from his lungs. When the emergency lights in the building's corridor flickered on, casting a weak, sterile glow through his doorway, the figure was gone. The hallway was empty, just as it had been before, yet the air was thick with a residual cold. Shaking uncontrollably, Alex stumbled forward, his eyes scanning the floor where the entity had stood. A glint of metal caught his eye. Lying on the worn wooden floor was a small antique silver locket, tarnished with age. He had never seen it before. With trembling fingers he picked it up. It felt cold to the touch. He fumbled with the clasp and it sprang open. He didn't see a photograph inside, only his own reflection, distorted and tiny on the polished silver surface. But as he stared, the reflection shifted. The eyes looking back at him were not his own. They were dark, ancient, and filled with a terrifying, knowing emptiness.